Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new series of videos for a course dealing with PySimpleGUI. PySimpleGUI is the reason I picked it first is, first of all, it's the first one I learned, but it's very, very simple. It's still using tkinter, which is what comes with Python, but it makes it a lot easier to use right off the bat. For instance, in tkinter, you have to write a line of code that tells you what the widget, which would be a button, a text field, a label, piece of text, whatever, is, and how it's presented, and then a separate piece of text to place it. So you have these two different things going on, and you have to constantly, if you're going to move one, you always have to look at the two. PySimpleGUI kind of combines that all into one thing by putting everything into a list. If you're doing something very simple, this allows you to skip classes and things like that. That, again, if it's very simple, while it's very good programming practice, is not necessary. This program is way too big that I'm going to show you to be using this the way I used it. But I want to show you that it's possible, and it's not impossible to understand what's going on. So then the next thing is I pop up the SimpleGUI documentation site, and there's something new going on. I will have to figure that out and pop that in as a little mini video when I figure out everything that means and whether or not it's still something we should use. But at least you'll know how to use it. Looks like it's still free for normal, everyday use. Yep, you're going to have to use hobbyist users can subscribe to it. So we'll see what all that is. I just noticed it like 10 minutes ago when I started preparing for this. So let's just take a look and use this as an example. In tkinter, you would have to make a line of code that told that this was a label, and that's what you call a piece of text when you put it in. Text is when they put it in. It's a little different than that. But anyways, this is a label, and then tell it where to put it, and then another piece of text, tell it where to put it, another piece of text, tell it where to put it, another button with everything, another line, not a piece of text, another line, another code, a button, and tell it where to put it. There's three different ways of putting it. So you got to figure out what you're going to do. In PySimpleGUI, instead of having 6 lines of code, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's 10 lines of code, and figuring out where you're going to do it, this is what you do. 1 line of code, because the layout, which means the entire box, everything that's inside the gray here, is the layout. And all we're going to do is make a list of the text, the next text, the input text, the button, and then call the window with the title, tell it to put it on there, and then we're going to look through it. That's it. We're done. We don't have to figure out where we're placing them. We don't have to do any of that. You can. There's ways of particularly putting something together. You can make rows, you can make columns, you can make frames. All of it can be done, but that's as simple as it gets. Right there, done. And at least for me, it was easier to understand when I first started trying to figure out GUIs. This made it very easy to understand because you skipped all of the mechanical stuff that you didn't know what was going on and having. You just learned one simple. You learned the PySimpleGUI and you import it like you import every other package in the world, and the standard is SG. And then you have a text object, put in the text, we're done. Hit comma, which means move it down 1 space. Go down a row. So you have your first row. Now the second row is the text and the input. Notice that it's all in one list. The entire row is in one list. And then the two buttons are in one list. So each line of text is a row. It all goes into, each line is a list and a row, and then it's all a list. So it's a list of lists. But it's simple when you want to do something that simple and get to it. That is the gist of it. We're going to walk through, like I said, something that's just way too much to do it the way I did it. But I want you guys to also see what it's like to be a new learner and trying to do something when you haven't learned about everything. And it's amazing that Python can still do it. You can make programs knowing very little Python and then find the little bit that you need. But I needed this one package and very beginner ideas. Other than that, it's really not that difficult. It's basically laying it out in a window and then using an F string, which is a way to format your text, and that's it. So we'll go over some of that as we go on. So I'm going to bring up my, not that, this, and we'll make it big. So this is a Madlib program. What it does is gives you a choice of 5 different Madlibs. Just pick a number, and then you fill in all of the data for the Madlib in a separate window, so it doesn't get too awfully messy. Still kind of messy. And then it takes all of those additions that you put in, or all those choices, and prints out the Madlib. It's not very difficult. It's not using a ton of high-level information. It's just mostly very simple. And it's taking advantage of this right here, where it says while true, events values, read, and go on. What does that mean? What it means is while true, so forever. As long as that program's open forever, it's going to continue going through this loop. It's going to look for an event. An event would be hitting return. An event could be hitting a mouse button, which is what I've done with everything. It could also be typing. It could be a lot of things. But all it's doing is looking for the event. And if the event is a closed window, which is the X up in the corner, or the event equals cancel, in this case on the end, then we're going to close the program. Otherwise, we're going to just print in the console, you entered such and such value from row 2. Back to the beginning. Waiting. Did you enter cancel? Did you put something different in there? Just going and going and going. So all that changes in this huge 221 program is here's the close line exactly like it is in there, and then my other buttons. The exact same process. If the event equals this, do this. That's it for my 5 things. So if we run the program, we get this. Some text in the beginning tell you what it is, what do you want to do, a row of 5 buttons, and I left a place for the Madlib to show up. Click on a button, and adjective, run, place, enter. One thing I didn't do is set it up to use the enter to move to the next one. Tab automatically works. There is a way to make the enter work, but I didn't do it. Again, I wrote this when I feel like I didn't really know what I'm doing. But it was neat to do, because the reason I did this is that making a Madlib, you will find that information all over bunch of different things. It's a great starting program to write, except that they're doing it at the command prompt. So I couldn't send it to anyone to say, hey, look what I did, unless they had something that could run a command prompt. So now you need to make them do stuff they don't do on their computers. This was the way to show it off. So we'll keep going here. Enter a noun. Bat. Another adjective. Adjective isn't run. An adjective is a description. Blue. Floppy. Ball. Cat. Purple. I guess I'm just into the colors. Just what pops into my head. An animal is a dog. And one last adjective is shiny. And one last noun is going to be horse. And hit submit. And we get the silly admin. Once upon a blue day in the land of hell, a brave bat set out on a sloppy adventure. They carried a trusty ball and a bag filled with cats. As they journeyed through the purple forest, they encountered a friendly dog who offered to be their guide. Together, they embarked on a shiny quest and find the legendary horse. That's it. And we can print them over and over and over again. It works. You can skip one. It doesn't skip the word. And then when you hit exit, this one or this one, we're done. So it's not very difficult, but 200 and some lines of code. I don't think it needs to be that way. I would have to really sit down and think. And I made this a function. I'm not exactly sure how I would have done it without the function. The function is doing exactly what we're doing in the first window there, except they're all the pop-up windows. So each one's different depending on how the Madlib goes. So that's the explanation of all this. Just here, if you press 5, and you can take the print statements out. That was me just testing it. That shows up in my, that I hit, pressed 1. So these were all the submits. This is what it took, and then it hit exit. And that's just me testing and putting in those print statements to help me figure out if something's going wrong, where is it going wrong? And it helps a lot. Just to see, again, these are the things that you can do. I guess I'm just trying to show you what I did, and it may not be the greatest way, and maybe I'm just stumbling over myself, but I know there's a lot of you out there somewhere, if you're seeing this video, who are stumbling over themselves, who want to make a game and who just can't get past the beginning. And same thing, I mean, what I couldn't get past is so I can type all of these things down here. But who has Visual Studio Code unless they're another coder? That's great if you want to give it to a coder, but I don't know, what if you want to give it to your friends or show off to, as I did, show it off to my wife and say, look, I did something. It worked. Here's proof I'm actually doing something. And that could be for yourself. That could be for anybody. But I can send this program. And I haven't done it, but you could send the program out and run this program anywhere. But you needed to have the GUI to do it. I didn't go that far, but I was very happy to get the GUI. So that's I don't want to go too long right away, so I'm going to stop this video there, and then we'll start walking through the code. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll do my best to keep looking at them. I should get notified from them. And who knows if this is a few years from now, who knows what's going on at that time and whether any of this works and whether what I showed you in the beginning with some changes for PySimpleGUI changes that. But at least you have something that you can work with right now and start creating some things. And after we go through this one, just to kind of tease you in the long run, I also created a dice roller. So all of you RPG people out there, and that's part of what's happening on this channel too, is we're making games of many different types. So there's a pretty simple, but it is a dice roller. So maybe you're a solo player and you need something on the computer to do it. Anyways, we will catch you in the next video. See you then.